The Last of Us is the story of Joel and Ellie, these two kind of very different survivors that are trying to make their way through a United States that has been ravaged by this pandemic, how they learn to trust each other over time, and really wanted to see this evolution of this bond that they form over the entire course of the game.
It's really shown itself to be a game about contrast in every way, from Joel's character being born before this pandemic hit and took out America as we know it, to Ellie being born after. So her viewpoint on the world is very different from Joel's, to our art style and what we're going with the abandonment and what we know as the familiar, the everyday coffee shop that's now like flooded or overgrown.
Another form of seeing contrast is we really want to show the best and worst of mankind. We want to show different factions, and each faction has their own way of dealing with the infection, the people who are infected, and the lack of supplies, and you're going to see people resort to really dark means of survival through killing and violence, and some people through more, I don't know, altruistic means of where they're
bonds that are like formed together, families reuniting or forming in this world, and you know, agricultural means of survival.
Trying to bring society back to
together.
how we know it today.
Something else we wanted to do with this game was bring something from the genre, these other mediums, comics, novels, and movies like 28 Days Later, Children of Men,
Walking
Dead, the comic, The Road, the novel.
The Last Man.
Yeah, so these are things that Neil and I share a love for, really, and we found a great opportunity when we're kicking around the ideas for a new project at Naughty Dog, to bring what we've learned in the Naughty Dog method of true character development and characters that resonate and have depth and conflict with each other, and you feel that tension that Joel and Ellie are feeling, and you feel that pressure being applied to them, and you're with them moment to moment because you're there trying to survive just like they are.
Ultimately, what we want to do is evoke certain emotions from the player, from people playing this game. And the way we do that is by giving characters that have a lot of dimensionality, a lot of depth, so you could buy that they're real people that are forced to make these difficult choices. And part of the process of bringing these characters to life was casting Troy and Ashley. I mean, these two very talented actors that have imbued these characters with so much personality and emotional range. And the chemistry between these two actors, which then translate to the chemistry between these two characters. I mean, the kind of emotional themes we're dealing with this game, like we mentioned before, love, loyalty, sacrifice, you know, they're pretty hard themes, emotions to sell in any medium. And for us, we feel like the only way we could really get into those kinds of emotions is if you buy into what's at stake for these characters. And that's kind of been why we have approached tension and violence on such a realistic level.
That violence is to show you that there are real consequences, and of course this plays into strategies. For the player, we're giving a lot more opportunities. It's probably one of the more system-based games that we're making here at Naughty Dog, if ever. So everything has weight, everything has consequence, and then that allows Joel and Ellie to create interesting choices, and that lets you as the player strategize differently throughout.
Ashley is pretty violent. So there's been at least 4 times where she's hit another actor. One time in an audition, she actually almost got in a fight with one of like the actors. But the cool thing is because she really throws herself into Ellie. She really has become Ellie. And actually a lot of times when we're thinking about dialogue, it's like listening to Ashley and listening to how she speaks, and almost that gets directly translated to how Ellie speaks. When trying to cast Joel, this pretty tough character, you know, he's gone someplace really dark in his life in order to become a survivor in this world. We went through a really long casting process. We saw like dozens of actors, and finally got this headshot of Troy, this like tall, handsome, skinny,
really handsome,
kind of beautiful guy, and it's like, is this guy going to be Joel? And brought him in, but then we did the audition. He threw himself into the role. He auditioned against Ashley, and we knew that was our Joel.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're kind of bummed we couldn't be there sharing this moment with you guys, but instead we're going to hand it off to
us.
It's a mystery. That's who it is. Who are you going to hand it off to? We don't know. Bye, Neil. Bye, Bruce. Let's take 2 on that one. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you, like Neil and Bruce said, thank you for even being interested in this. We've had an absolute blast over the last year and a half making this game, and we're incredibly, just like they are, we're incredibly humbled by the response that we've gotten so far. And just please just punch to be enjoyed.
Yes. Well, why don't you tell us some of your past work to at least provide context? Into how
Sure.
you're coming to
Why
this?
am I here? There's, if you guys are gamers, hopefully you are. Otherwise, boy, this has been a long week so far for you. Final Fantasy 13 was one of the first big games that I did. I played Snow Villiers. If you didn't like the character, I apologize. I know he was annoying. Steel Guard. Yeah. Also, to me, it's very much of a gamer's game. Was Catherine? I played Vincent Brooks in that, which was a Cubertian hell. Fun game to make. Yay! Batman: Arkham City. I played Two-Face in that, which was a dream come true, and ended up being in Batman as in Lego Batman 2. A bunch of games, and I'm a nerd gamer, and this is purely water, I assure you.
Well, your background's completely different. You actually come from the film and TV world.
Yes.
You've been on the TV show The Killing. You know,
Yay!
Yes.
And Marvel The Avengers.
Yay!
And anything else?
Yeah, I have some other things, but this is my first video game, so I don't have a cool resume like that. I wish I could say stuff like that, but this will be my first, and
Not your
well, could be the last of me, whatever that means. Yeah, this is my first video game, and I'm so excited that this is my first game, so I feel very lucky.
Well, seeing this is a first video game, what's it like for you to come on to our performance capture stage? It's a completely different world, so like, what's it like for you?
This is a completely different world. The first time I auditioned, they held the auditions on the performance capture
Cage is actually proper.
yeah, cage. On the stage, and when I walked in, I mean, it's like walking into a room like this, but it's bigger, and there are just cameras all around the entire room, and it could be a little bit intimidating, but I think I was just so excited and so in love with the story, just a little bit of the story that I was given for the audition and the concept art. But it is very different, and I've learned so much from Troy, obviously, since he's been doing this for so long, or has done so much at this.
I'm old!
He's an old man. But yeah, it's definitely a very new experience for me.
It's definitely, and she's right, it can be incredibly intimidating. And I think everyone's trying to find the best way to do performance capture, because more and more games are going towards a more cinematic approach. And in order to do that, the need for actors to come in and actually bring that story to life and bring those characters to life has become so critical to telling that narrative in a video game. But it's still such an embryonic phase of how we're doing it. But the industry has, been looking to Naughty Dog because of the success with Uncharted and how well they are at telling stories, and how realistic and successful that game was in portraying those characters in that story. That there's a proven method to the way that we do performance capture. So it's fun, if nothing else.